Today I fucked up by leaving the house after I caught my wife flirting with a coworker on the phone. This was 2 months ago, but adding now to see what Reddit has to say, as I'm still struggling. I have been married for just over 2 years. For the last 6 months or so my wife has been drinking heavily. Like taking shot after shot of vodka as soon as she gets home from work until she is wasted. She has done this every night for months. She can drink more than me, but she weighs 110 pounds and I'm at 205 pounds. It's not uncommon for her to drink half to 2/3 of a bottle of whiskey or vodka in one evening. On her days off she will start drinking by 10 a.m. and be passed out by 3–4 p.m. I have asked her to stop, and she would say she's trying, but her pattern had not changed. For about a week prior to the night of this post she had been saying that I am not attracted to her and how come I never wanted to have sex anymore. I told her because she's wasted all the time and I'm not attracted to someone who is constantly drunk. We had the same argument every night for at least a week. Partially I think because she couldn't remember us arguing about it the previous night and she would get wasted again and the argument would repeat itself. One night 2 months ago I got home from work around 7 p.m. and when I walked in the house she was on the phone. I could already tell she was hammered, swaying, slurring words, etc. When I came in she looked startled and said, "I have to go," and hung up the phone. I asked who she was talking to and she said a guy from her work. I asked why she looked so guilty. She said she was just talking to him but felt guilty when I got home, so she hung up. I got mad and started arguing with her. She said why can't she think another guy is attractive and there's nothing wrong with that. I said the issue was that she's calling him and flirting with him and she's my wife. I was angry and told her that I was over it and I was leaving. I packed a bag real quick and left. While leaving she kept saying I don't want you to go and grabbed my wrist to try to keep me from leaving. I pulled away and left the house. I was driving around just trying to calm down, thinking about what to do, where to go. I really didn't want to go home and deal with her being wasted and arguing all night. I eventually booked a hotel not too far away and figured I'd crash the night there and hopefully me leaving would make her change her behavior. Shortly after checking into my hotel, my front door camera went off showing her leaving the house. At that point I just shut down. My mind was racing on what to do and I also thought fuck you, then I guess it's over. I sat in my hotel room for about 20 minutes stressing out. When I realized I couldn't just sit there, I went back home. Her car was still there, so I knew she must have gotten picked up. I was just so mad that I sat with my dog and thought about how I was going to have to get divorced and sell my house and move and all the things. She still wasn't home about 3 hours later, so I finally tried calling several times with no answer. I don't know why I didn't call sooner. I was just angry and was thinking she made up her mind and fuck her basically. The next morning, she came home around 9:30 a.m. I didn't sleep at all because I was freaking out all night. She said, "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked where she was, and she said she was at the coworker's house. I blew up and told her she's a terrible person and an alcoholic and a piece of shit. She said she had called him because she couldn't get our air fryer to work and wanted a ride to McDonald's to get some food. She said she didn't remember getting to his house and she took longer to get home because she was hoping it was all a bad dream. At first, she told me she only kissed him and didn't want to get divorced and that she would look into counseling. After I agreed to try if she quit drinking and went to counseling, she told me that she did sleep with him and didn't want to lie to me. I told her I want a divorce and she just kept saying that she didn't, and she wanted to work things out. It's been 2 months now and we've been sleeping in different rooms. She hasn't been getting wasted but still drinks wine occasionally but hasn't touched hard liquor since the event. The coworker quit his job so they no longer work together. We've been going to couples counseling, but I still can't get over her going out and fucking someone when she's supposed to be my wife. I know she was wasted, but how much of an excuse can that really be? And I don't know if I can continue with our marriage after this. Too long did not read. I caught my alcoholic wife flirting with someone on the phone. I said fuck you and left the house. She then left the house and cheated on me. Now she wants to work on our marriage. Edit. I was trying to keep it short and 5 paragraphs of my issues was more than I ever wanted online, hence this throwaway account. Thank you for all of your advice and kind words. I should have clarified, she did not start drinking 6 months ago. It's been going on for several years, it just wasn't every day. In the last 6 months it was every single day. I would regularly bring up that she was drinking too much and she always told me she was trying and working on it. She'd stop for a week or so then go back at it. When she would get really bad she'd cry and say that I don't care about her anymore. Every January for the last 3 years I did the no alcohol for the month, and this was the first year she didn't join me. That made January fucking miserable. Therapy has been helpful, but thank you to those of you that recommended my own therapist as well. I had one solo session with our therapist, but finding someone separate sounds like a good idea. I'm sure reading this, it seems obvious that I should just leave, or should have already. I have been trying to make it work because I do love her when she's sober. We did virtually everything together outside work. Her drinking has slowly isolated us over the years. I don't invite friends over anymore because she gets wasted every time and I'm left trying to act like it's normal. Our friends and I all like to drink, but she's the only one that gets wasted, which we've spoken about many times. I've literally carried her out of every wedding we've been to, excluding our own, for at least the last 6 years. I have put in some effort to make it work because I guess I have just wanted my life back. House, garden, dog, sober wife. But as my therapist and some of you have said, that life is over now since she cheated and it's rebuilding a whole new life. That's why I'm still struggling after 2 months. I don't think I'll get over it. My therapist said I probably have ADHD based on how I overthink everything, and that's why I tend to lose focus easily in conversations. That was one thing that made my wife think I didn't care about her anymore. BTW. I posted it on Today I Fucked Up because I do continually think that if I hadn't left or had called sooner, things may have been different. However, I do realize it was more than likely inevitable, whether that night or the next. She has cut way back on drinking since everything happened. I just don't know if it's sustainable or forgivable. I'm just some random guy on Reddit, but I would absolutely not continue to try and work that out. Get separated, and get started moving on with your life. She's not your wife, she's your ex-wife. Don't text her, don't post anything about it. Quietly go talk to a good divorce lawyer and get the ball rolling. Do not move out. Repeat, do not move out. It's not worth it moving forward. It's rare that I see a situation and say, "Fuck this," instead of giving optimistic, constructive comments. Your wife is a real boss. She broke your trust and there is no coming back from there. You don't sleep together and she still drinks regularly. She doesn't deserve you, and I applaud you for enduring her constant drinking, but it might be time to let go. You did not fool. She was going to cheat no matter what. She cheated. It's over, bud. Move on. Worth more. Today I fucked up by waking up mid-procedure and trying to fight the entire ain't it the asshole L staff. First, I'll start by explaining that as a foster child I had some extremely traumatic experience with a particular dentist. In hindsight I can tell that he was a sadist, but at the moment I didn't understand. He was very mean and he always hurt me, and I didn't really have anyone to turn to because my foster parents either didn't care or didn't believe me. As a result, I have extreme anxiety about going to the dentist, and I generally prefer to get put out for anything more major than a filling rather than sit there for hours having an anxiety attack. This isn't my first foray into wildly reacting to sedatives, but it is my most embarrassing one. There were no outbursts the last time I was sedated at the dentist, although I did keep waking up and trying to vape until they took my vape away from me. I was told I accepted this readily and didn't make a fuss, just laid back down. Also, previously, after a knee surgery, I found my phone on my ride home and I texted a few of my more shiftless coworkers and told them exactly what I thought of their efforts. Luckily we're all friends and I'm not the hold anything back kind of guy, so they'd already heard it all before. They just thought it was hilarious and made fun of me about it for a couple months. In reality, when I'm not full of sedatives I'm not the same asshole and I'm more likely to offer help than complain or judge, even if I do shit talk while I do it. Unfortunately, today's experience might take a little bit more walking back on my part. This time turned out a little different. Maybe a lot different. This time I really fucked up. Before the procedure I tried to remind them that it takes a surprising amount of sedative to keep me unconscious, but they decided to be safe and just go with the minimum to start with. This meant that I wasn't fully out, but I was chill enough to just zone out to music and mostly not mind what was happening. At least, until the point that I decided I did mind. In fact, I minded very much. An embarrassing amount, actually. After a little while of dozing in and out of twilight sleep, the dentist started doing some weird thing where he would jerk on my cheek very hard as he pierced my gum and jaw with what felt like a needle. Later they explained this as a distraction from the pain of was using a syringe to inject a local anesthetic. But at this moment it didn't matter what he was doing, I'd had enough. I suddenly jerked my head a little bit when he jerked my cheek for the 4th or 5th time and the needle went into the tip of my tongue, instantly numbing one side of my tongue. Really, it was my fault, but I was in no condition to accept that. I don't really know what I thought in that moment, but I know that I was not thrilled. I pushed my very kind dentist and at least one other person away from me, stood up, and started yelling and swearing at everyone, swaying around drunkenly, screaming God knows what. I was dizzy as hell. I'm not sure if I understood what was happening at all. I edged my way around the room until my back was against a wall so no one could sneak up on me. By now there was an uproar and probably 5 or 6 staff were there in front of me with wide eyes and hands held out in front of them, begging me to chill out. I have no idea what I was saying, but I ranted the entire time. A good few minutes at least. I know I said I was pissed. That there's no reason to jerk on my cheek if I'm sleeping, because if I'm sleeping you don't have to disguise the pain, and anyways I'm 40 years old, you're not fooling me. Just give me the shot and save your cheek-pulling games for children. At one point the very sweet tech asked me if I'd had caffeine or Adderall or any sort of stimulants in the last 24 hours that would keep me awake. I hadn't. This also offended me for some reason, so I started ranting about that too. Loudly. On and on I went, backed up against the wall with my fists up in front of me, swaying like an alcoholic. There was a wedge in my mouth holding my teeth apart that at some point I took out and threw away from myself. I was still attached to the blood pressure machine and I was jerking it around. Someone had to hold on to it to keep it from tipping over. All in all, it was ugly. Very ugly. Eventually the reality of the situation started to dawn on me. I realized that was surrounded by dental staff, who were 75% kindly older women, all of them watching with horrified expressions as I reeled drunkenly, bouncing my 250-pound frame around and screaming blearily from behind clenched fists. As it dawned on me I calmed down, and because I actually like them all very much and they're always kind to me, I was able to pull it together and sit back down. They gave me more sedative. Eventually I passed back out, and by the time I woke up it was time to go home. I didn't really remember a single thing about the appointment in that moment. I was just ready to go home and go to bed for a few hours. Fast forward to evening and I'm now finally sober enough to process thoughts. I just got a voicemail from the dentist about 12 hours later, very cautiously inquiring into my well-being, which brought that flood of half-memories back to mind. I'm very embarrassed. This is my first dentist that I have had as an adult, my first dentist that I returned to, and I was really hoping for it to be my last dentist as well. Hopefully they take me back. I plan to go down there tomorrow with some flowers and a very heartfelt apology. And hopefully they make a note in my chart to throw in a little extra sedative next time they have to put me out. Too long did not read. I woke up mid-procedure and tried to fight the entire staff for a few minutes until they were able to convince me to calm down and sit back down. Probably not the first time they've experienced it. The flowers will be nice and solidify that the confusion in a sedated state was to blame. Sedatives make some people more aggressive. Combined with your trauma, it's not your fault. Just something that you and your team need to have a plan for next time. I was an oral surgeon. You're not the first one. This was beautiful. I don't think you fucked up. You tried to tell them. Maybe they should work on their listening skills. Today I fucked up by touching a mango. This is going to sound really stupid, and trust me it is. But this happened just over an hour ago and I'm still mentally kicking myself for thinking this was a good idea. For a little bit of background, my dad is allergic to mangoes, not necessarily the meat of the fruit, but the skin. He had a real bad experience as a kid collecting mangoes from a tree, and before making it back to the house, he was covered in hives and incredibly itchy. Ever since I was little, I was told not to go near mangoes because I might have the same allergy as my dad. We never kept them in the house to avoid the potential risk of my dad, my brother, or I accidentally coming in contact with them. It's been like 20 years since I was first warned about this, and it never was an issue as I avoided them whenever I could. Today, I was picking up a grocery order as part of my job, and among the list of items was a single mango. When I went to get it, I thought about what I've been told by my family and, for some stupid reason, the question of, what if I'm not actually allergic to them, crossed my mind. After all, I'm almost certain I've eaten dishes with mango as one of the ingredients before. The last thing that comes to mind was mango salsa on these fish tacos I tried less than a year ago. So, I grabbed it. I held it for like 2 seconds before putting it in a bag and continuing with my shopping. I dropped the groceries off at the customer's house when I noticed my fingers were a bit tingly. Not exactly numb, but more like the pins and needles you get in your feet when you sit in a position for too long. I started making my way home because, while this seemed like a very mild reaction, I know that it can get out of hand quick. I have quite a few allergies, some of which require an inhaler and EpiPen. Sure enough, by the time I got home, my entire body was itchy. While I couldn't see any hives, every part of my skin had that fuzzy sensation and felt like I needed to scratch everything, especially my ears and neck. Thankfully, it's been an hour and that seems to be the worst of the symptoms, but I can't help but laugh at how stupid it was for me to throw logic to the wind all because of a what-if moment. Thanks for reading. Too long did not read. Family wasn't lying. I am, in fact, allergic to mangoes. Mango skin contains the same substance found in poison ivy. If you are sensitive to poison ivy, you'll also be sensitive to handling mangoes. My mom found out that my older brother was allergic to fabric softener when he was still a baby, so she just stopped using it. Cut to 20 years later, my brother is out on his own, assumes fabric softener as part of the laundry process even though we never used it at process, and mentioned when talking to the parents that he was having all these skin issues all of a sudden. Only then does he learn that he's allergic. It was just never relevant before. I just got such a tickle out of the fact that you admit that you have quite a few allergies, and that you were told that you might have another allergy and you're just like, what, that sounds unrealistic, loudly crying open-mouth smile. Next time open the bag and put it over your hand like a glove, then use it to pick up the mango. For a while I couldn't touch bell peppers, so I had to pick them up that way. Take an antihistamine like Benadryl to help. Today I fucked up by staying up all night. Obligatory. I'm on mobile. Also, this happened about a week ago. It still has me messed up though. I, 33 female, love to read, so I borrow books from the library often. Unfortunately, my boyfriend, 33 male, likes to bother me while I'm reading, so I read at night after he goes to sleep. Well, I ended up staying up all night reading. When the sun started rising, I decided to finally lie down. Not long after lying down, my boyfriend got up. He went and sat on the chair, which is directly across from me. I could see his phone screen lit up, but I couldn't see the actual screen. He usually listens to music in the morning, so I figured that was what he was doing. So I closed my eyes to try to sleep until I heard him move. I opened my eyes and saw him throw something in the hamper. Then he went into the bathroom. I shouldn't have done what I did next. I checked the hamper. He threw a cum-filled sock into the hamper. But not just any sock. A dirty sock. He's been masturbating into dirty socks. Socks that he wears on his feet all day. Socks he sweats in. He has athlete's foot. He didn't even wash his dick afterwards. Almost every time we'd have sex I would end up with an infection. I was tested for STIs. He was tested too. I couldn't figure out what the issue was. I was told that sometimes you get yeast infections from sex. Turns out it was his dirty sock dick the entire time. He caught me separating our dirty clothes, and he asked me why I was doing it. I just told him to keep his dick out of my socks, and then I buried my socks at the bottom of the hamper. He's my ex now, but we still live together. I don't know if he ever used my socks. I don't know how to really feel about this. It was a very disturbing and disgusting experience. Too long did not read. Stayed up all night reading. Learned my boyfriend likes to put his penis in dirty socks. That sucks. What were you reading? Socrates? At least you found out what was causing all those infections. Crazy the things people do. They always tell you not to stick your dick in crazy, but nobody ever tells you not to stick your dick in your fungus-encrusted gym socks. I mean, it should probably be a given, but I guess we should start making it clearer? It's horrifying to hear grown adults have no concept of basic hygiene.